There was a moment here in Australia, when the wind seemed to whisper more than simply breeze. It whispered through places that do not look like they belong to this world. Places where the light does something to the landscape that no photograph quite captures because the camera assumes the colors must be wrong and adjusts them back toward ordinary. Places where the first Europeans to arrive wrote descriptions that were dismissed as exaggeration until others confirmed that no, the pink really is that pink, and the rock really is that red, and the water really does glow blue in darkness. Australia is the oldest continent on Earth. It has had more time than anywhere else to become strange. The soil oxidized into colors that younger continents have not yet reached. The isolation produced landscapes that look, to eyes accustomed to the northern hemisphere, like the surface of somewhere else entirely. We are counting down 5 Australian places that look like another planet. One has water so pink it reads as artificial to every eye that encounters it. One is a gorge system that looks like Mars with water in it. One has water that glows electric blue in darkness. One is a rock formation so ancient it makes the Grand Canyon look recent. And one is a salt lake so flat and white the horizon disappears entirely. Like this video if you have ever seen a photograph of Australia and assumed it was edited. Subscribe because some places deserve to be witnessed before you decide what is possible. Let's break it down. Number 5. Lake Hillier, Western Australia. Lake Hillier sits on Middle Island, off the south coast of Western Australia near Esperance. It is pink. Not pinkish, not rose-tinted. Persistently, completely, photographically pink, a color so saturated and so uniform that every aerial photograph looks like the work of someone who found the saturation slider and made an irresponsible decision. The color is real. It comes from halophilic bacteria Dunaliella salina, which produces carotenoids in high salinity water, combined with microalgae and halobacteria in the surrounding salt crust. The lake is separated from the Southern Ocean by a narrow strip of vegetation. The contrast between pink lake and deep blue ocean is visible from the air in a way that makes the ocean look photoshopped. Access requires a permit. Middle Island is part of the Recherche Archipelago Nature Reserve. Most people see Lake Hillier from the air, which is the appropriate scale. One visitor wrote, "I was prepared for it to be less than the photographs." It was not less. The photographs do not prepare you for the scale. The lake is large enough that the pink has weight. It is not a curiosity. It is a color the landscape is committed to. Picture this. It is a morning above the Southern Ocean. The lake is exactly as pink as every photograph suggested and the suggestion was insufficient. The ocean beyond is the blue it always is. The strip of green between them is the only part of the scene that resembles a color from the world you came from. Number 4. Karijini Gorges, Western Australia. Karijini National Park sits in the Pilbara, in country formed between 2.5 and 3 billion years ago, rock older than complex life on Earth. The gorges were cut through banded iron formation created in ancient oceans before the atmosphere had significant oxygen, and the colors, deep red, rust orange, ochre, are the colors of a planet not yet softened by biology. The gorges descend in narrow slots through the plateau into pools of extraordinary clarity. The walls close to widths measured in meters. The light reaches the bottom in narrow windows and when it does, the banded iron formation glows in a way that looks designed rather than geological. One visitor wrote, "I have seen photographs of Karijini that I thought were enhanced. Then I stood in Hancock Gorge and the walls were that color, in that light, and I understood that the photographs were underselling it because cameras do not know how to render ancient." Picture this. It is a morning in Karijini. The temperature at the rim is climbing. Below, in the gorge, the water is cold and the walls are 3 billion years old. This is Australia. It is also the surface of geological time made walkable. Number 3. Gippsland Lakes Bioluminescence, Victoria. The Gippsland Lakes in eastern Victoria have, in certain conditions, produced bioluminescent displays that photographers have been capturing since 2008 in images consistently assumed to be manipulated. The water glows electric blue when disturbed. Kayak paddles create blue trails. Waves break in light. Fish leave blue streaks visible to the naked eye. Noctiluca scintillans is a marine dinoflagellate, a single-celled organism that produces light through a chemical reaction when disturbed. In the conditions that Gippsland lakes occasionally provide, the density of organisms becomes sufficient that the lake glows visibly from shore. The blue is not subtle. The bioluminescence is not permanent or guaranteed. It occurs in conditions that are partly predictable and partly not. People have driven specifically to see it and seen nothing. Others have arrived without expectation and encountered it fully. One photographer wrote, "I submitted the images to magazines and was told to remove the color enhancement before they would publish. There was no enhancement. That is the actual color. The actual color is the problem." Picture this. It is a night at the Gippsland lakes. The water is dark. Then something disturbs the surface and the dark water responds with blue light. Australia is the oldest continent on Earth. It has had time to develop surprises. Number 2. The Bungles, Western Australia. Pernolula National Park in the East Kimberley contains the Bungle Range. Sandstone towers striped in orange and black, shaped over 20 million years into domes that rise from the plateau like structures of a civilization that built in stone and then left. The scale is impossible to judge from photographs because there is nothing familiar in the frame to provide reference. The orange is Kimberley sandstone. The black is cyanobacteria and algae colonizing the silica-rich bands with a precision that suggests intent rather than geology. The Bungles were not widely known outside the Kimberley until a documentary crew photographed them from the air in 1983. The Kija and Jaru peoples had been living in this country for tens of thousands of years. The European discovery in 1983 is the kind of discovery that belongs in quotation marks. Access requires a four-wheel drive vehicle or a flight. The unsealed road is not suitable for conventional vehicles. Partly what kept the Bungles unknown for so long, and partly what protects them now. One visitor wrote, "I had seen every photograph and thought I understood the scale. I did not. The domes are large enough that you walk between them for hours. The stripes are not painted. They are structural. The place looks like a film set built on a budget too large to be real." Picture this. It is a morning in Pernolulu. The domes catch early light on their orange bands and the black bands hold shadow. You are standing inside 20 million years of geology that arrived at this pattern without assistance. Number 1. Lake Eyre, Kati Thanda, South Australia. Kati Thanda, Lake Eyre, is the largest lake in Australia and, for most of its existence, contains no water. It is a salt lake, 15 meters below sea level at the center of the continent, and its default state is a vast flat white expanse extending to a horizon so uniform and so distant that the concept of scale collapses. There is nothing to measure against. The white goes in every direction with a consistency that removes the visual anchors the human brain uses to understand space. When Kati Thanda fills, which happens rarely, requiring exceptional rainfall across the entire Lake Eyre basin, the transformation is among the most dramatic ecological events on the continent. Pelicans arrive from thousands of kilometers away. Wildflowers bloom in densities that seem impossible given the surrounding aridity. The last major filling was in 2010 and 2011. Before that, 1984. In its dry state, Kati Thanda removes the cues by which you normally understand where you are and replaces them with a silence and a scale that the human nervous system was not designed to process. One visitor wrote, "I drove to the edge and understood, for the first time, what the word vast actually means. Not large. Not big. Vast, the specific quality of space that exceeds your ability to relate to it." And in that quiet hush, beneath the whispering gums, above the pink lake and the ancient gorge and the glowing water and the striped domes and the white salt that goes on until distance becomes theory, I realized not all shadows hide. Some simply invite us to see. We just counted down 5 Australian places that look like another planet. The photographs are real. The colors are real. The science is documented. What is not fully understood is why standing inside any of these places produces the feeling that you have left the version of the world you were born into. Which would you visit first? Leave it below. If this video showed you something worth seeing, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a different kind of map. We will see you in the next one. This video expresses poetic and reflective storytelling. Information is drawn from publicly available scientific and geographical sources. It does not offer travel advice.